Hey, this is Matt. Once again, what about you? Another video, another paid request, this time for Gia. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, whatever it may be, feel free to send them either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now this is for another Versus, which is Hard to Kill from 1990 and Lionheart from 1990. And he mentioned that this Hard to Kill is his favorite Steven Seagal film, and Lionheart is his favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme film. Now, I enjoy both of these movies. It's a great double bill. This is the heyday of these guys. You know, Van Damme would go on to do Universal Soldier, and Hard Target was my favorite. Steven Seagal would go on to do Out for Justice, which is my favorite. Under Siege. And there's a time where Van Damme was doing stuff like Double Impact. They had done Bloodsport, Cyborg. Seagal had done films like About the Law and March for Death, and great heyday for these type of action films. Now, when I look at both of them, like I said, they're both very fun movies, both very entertaining films. Hard to Kill, you got William Sadler as the senator. Lionheart, you had Attila, and you had Brian Thompson and the Queen Bitch of the Sea. Both have their action, but they're different types of action. Seagal with his bone-breaking action, Van Damme with his kicks and punches. Both have pretty good musical scores. But if I had to say which I prefer, I would go with Lionheart. Now, that's not to say I dislike Hard to Kill. I do quite enjoy that film. Kelly LeBrock does fine, even though I know her and Seagal, things did not end well between the two of them, because I believe they were a couple for a little bit. But you do have some cool stuff. You have some cool lines of dialogue. Because I would say, okay, if I'm looking at lines of dialogue, Hard to Kill probably has better ones. Take that to the bank, Senator. The blood bank. I'll take you to the bank, Senator. Or, this is for my wife, fuck you and die. It's definitely a bit more of a violent film. I mean, he's breaking people's arms and breaking people's necks and stabbing people with pool cues. Maybe a little bit more variety of action. There's a little bit of gunplay at times, a little bit of a car chase when him and Kelly LeBrock have to escape and they're driving vehicles. But the reason I put Lionheart above is, number one, the main reason is I think it's got a lot of emotion to it. That really puts it into high gear, is the emotion in getting into the story more. Because the story in Hard to Kill is fine, even though the beginning is very ridiculous, with him being in a coma, and then even though he just got out of a coma after so many years, how he's able to outmaneuver the bad guy when he's in the fucking bed and moving around there is a bit ridiculous. And I could enjoy it and have fun with it, but it is a bit ridiculous. Like, Jesus, like, that's the way, I would say it began, but after the initial 5-7 minutes, then it gets into it. But Lionheart, I love those fight scenes. I love the friendship he has with Harrison Page, Van Damme has. I really feel them grow close as friends. Harrison Page is a great asset to Lionheart. King of the Jungle! I love the variety of venues that Van Damme has these fights in, whether he's fighting the Scottish guy around all these cars, or he's fighting the one guy in the empty swimming pool, fighting the one guy, I think in like a racquetball area, and he kissed the guy through the glass. And like I said, Hard to Kill works and is a fun, entertaining B-movie. Lionheart, again, I just feel the emotion more. I did a little bit more into the story. I feel more bad for Van Damme's... I should feel bad for Steven Seagal's character because his wife died, but Seagal doesn't really show much emotion. I do think this is one of the many reasons As much as I like early Seagal, I liked Van Damme more because even in these early stages, I always thought Van Damme, yeah, he didn't have the best use of the English language, but I think he was the better actor. I always thought Van Damme was the better actor. I think early days he showed a bit more emotion and laughs and able to make fun of himself with the dance and kickboxer. And in this, when you're wrong bet, he's angry and pissed off, you really feel it. And to have a hero that's willing to get beaten down, Seagal is never willing to do that. The very, very few times was he was a bit bloody at the end above the law. He lets the guy punch him a few times in The Dilemma Man, but he never allows himself to get feel weak. People look at him as weak. But Van Damme is willing to get kicked, willing to get punched, willing to get beaten up. Especially at the end, he's bloodied up, and he's on the ground, he's ready to lose. All the money's on Attila. Wrong bet. But he yells. And then the music, as much as I like the music in Hard to Kill, I like the music much more in Lionheart. And he's kicking Attila, and people are cheering you, Lionheart! I feel that emotion, I feel that, like, excitement, like, yeah, I'm part of the crowd. I get a sense of fun in Hard to Kill, but I don't feel that big emotion pull. Because Lionheart, I feel bad for Van Damme's brother getting killed, and he can't even get revenge on them. I know the trailer lies. The trailer makes it seem as if the bad guys killed Van Damme's brother. That wasn't the case. They're two separate things. So the trailer for Lionheart is very misleading. Very misleading trailer. But, Van Damme trying to help this lady who was his brother's wife, and the little girl, trying to get to know them, fighting to give money to them. So it has a little bit of a drama, a little bit of emotion aspects. You feel a bit of something emotion-wise. And like I said, Van Damme, in the fights, really, he's willing to get himself kicked and beaten a few times to show that he's not indestructible. It's like the Rocky thing, when you see a Rocky fight. He's doing well, but then, oh shit, he's getting beaten up, and you're waiting for the comeback. It makes the comeback that much sweeter. And Seagal, while it's cool to watch him just totally annihilate people, there's never that, even though we know these guys are going to win, sort of the story of a fight being played, Seagal never has that fight. He never has that story within a fight. It's always, ba 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 ba, win, I win, I win. While Van Damme and Sylvester Stallone would have these fights that would showcase a story to it, a story of, okay, I'm doing okay, but I get punched, I get kicked, I get beaten, I do this, I do that, and so then again you get that go up, that roller coaster of emotions. That in your head you're hoping and believing and knowing that he's going to win at the end, but you can feel the turmoil they go through. You feel the battle they go through. It feels like an actual battle. And that's a decent part of storytelling in these type of movies. And like I say, you don't get a whole lot in Seagal's stuff. They're fun and they're brutal with how bones are broken. But again, they lack a bit of the emotion that some of these guys like Stallone has in Cliffhanger, Stallone has in Rocky films, Van Damme had in Lionheart, Van Damme even has in Universal Soldier. Even in Universal Soldier, where you feel bad for the guy that he doesn't know what happened to him, and he meets his parents again, and even that scene in Cyborg, as much as people make fun of it, when he's crucified and he's remembering his this kind of adopted family he was in that died because the bad guy fucking made one girl try to hold him with barbed wire, and the others got dropped to a fucking well, left there to rot. And Venom's like, Fender! As he kicks that fucking cross off. I feel that emotion. like I said, you don't get a whole lot of that emotion in Seagal's films, but you do get a lot of Van Damme's films, and Lionheart is a prime example of that. So, as much as Hard to Kill has some humorous parts, like the how Seagal escapes after just an hour coma while still in his bed, while you still have some cool lines of dialogue and some hard-hitting action, and it's classic Seagal. Lionheart also has that action. They may not be witty, funny lines, but Ron Bet is just a cool line as any. Simple but effective. But you feel that bit more of drama and action with emotion mixed in that makes it even more of a satisfying experience. I think that's one of the reasons why Lionheart became one of Van Damme's kind of premier films at that time. That while, yes, if you looked at the box office, Steven Seagal's films were making more money than Van Damme. Hard to Kill made a lot more money than Lionheart. Under Siege, I think, made more money than Hard Target. But I do feel that Van Damme, I would say, has a bit more of the longevity. I love those early Seagal films, but I think Van Damme, because of his charisma, because he's willing to showcase a bit of emotion, even in Double Impact, depending which brother he plays. There's a more serious and there's a more carefree, laughter-filled between Chad and Alex. Or in this film, showing a bit of I think his films have a bit more of a longevity to them. That's not to say I can still watch Seagal's early films and enjoy the hell out of them sincerely. Not, oh, it's so bad, it's good. No, sincerely, I enjoy them. But I think Lionheart just has those things that one up Hard to Kill. Now, if you compare with like Out for Justice, that'd be tough because Out for Justice is a lot of fun, and I love that movie a lot. It's my favorite Seagal film. And while that might not have as much emotion compared to Lionheart, but that has so much fun with Seagal's accent. You fuck nuts. If William Forsythe is the villain, I would put that above it. Hard to Kill, while I don't mind the Senator, William Sadler does fine as the villain. I never thought he was a threatening villain. I mean, he wasn't supposed to be. Let's say I was never threatened by the villains. I think the villains work fine and efficient, but I would go with Seagal's like Tommy Lee Jones, Gary Busey Under Siege, and William Forsythe Out for Justice, or even the Jamaican guy in Marked for Death as better villains. While Attila, it's definitely an imposing figure for Van Damme to fight. And like I said, the music in Lionheart is very... I don't mind the score in Hard to Kill, but Lionheart is just a great score. Very different type of score compared to other Van Damme films at that time, or those kind of martial arts films. It's a very unique score for that type of film, with the type of instruments they used. And that definitely helps in the emotion. So I gotta go Lionheart for the win. I like Hard to Kill, but I gotta go with Lionheart. So with that said, thanks for watching, guys. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.